I always enjoy telling the story of the most important day of my life, the day I found the Urantia book. That day stands as an island, everything prior seeming to lead up to it, and everything after leading increasingly back into it. In 1968, I was living in Newport Beach and attending the University of California at Irvine, where I was majoring in philosophy. One day, upon arriving home from classes, my next door neighbor, Ed, met me at the door. Knowing of my intense spiritual quest, he greeted me by saying, "I ran across a book you might find interesting." He handed me the Urantia book, and the minute I held it in my hands and leafed through its pages, something deep within me exploded. I knew of a certainty that this was it, the culmination of my search. Ed told me someone at the hospital where he worked had bought a first edition Urantia book in a secondhand bookstore some years earlier. Although vaguely aware that the book was in some way special, he hadn't read much of it. He loaned it to Ed, telling him that it seemed a difficult book to find, that he wanted it back the next day. I persuaded Ed to lend me the book until it had to be returned. Ed realized how much more all this meant to me than it did to him. I went into my apartment and proceeded to read for 18 hours straight until it was time to go to work and school the next day. Ed arranged that I could borrow the Urantia book until I was able to acquire my own copy. For nearly 3 years, I had the book entirely to myself, not knowing another human being on the planet who had also read it. Finally, I wrote to Chicago, was put in contact with Julia Fenderson, and my active involvement in the movement progressed at a steady pace.